Welcome, everybody, back to the Fretboard Journal podcast. I'm your host, Jason Verlinde, the publisher of the Fretboard Journal magazine. I'm going to be honest, we usually record these episodes a couple of weeks before they go live, so I just want to acknowledge what has happened in Minneapolis and send my love to everybody in the Midwest. Today's guest is from Wisconsin in the Midwest. The Fretboard Journal has always been about love, a love for guitar, a love for sharing commonalities we all feel through music and gear, and I'm just sending you all love. I hope everybody out there is doing okay right now during these very, very hard times. Our guest today is musician and educator John Stropes. John is truly an authority, maybe the authority on fingerstyle guitar. If you go to Stropes.com, his website, you will see countless resources and tab and books that he's put out over the years. A few weeks ago, I received John's latest project, which is a 2-volume book dedicated to an album that had a tremendous impact on me personally, and I know many of you out there, Leo Kottke's 6 and 12-string guitar. John transcribed the entire record and designed this beautiful, beautiful book that features not only all the music from every track on that record, but also some behind-the-scenes stories on the actual compositions that we're hearing, and a whole bunch of just add-ons. There's QR codes you can scan. There's so much fun stuff. This is truly a labor of love, and a labor of love around an album that I think influenced a whole lot of us. I know a lot of Fretboard Journal readers remember that piece that we had on Annie Elliott, the illustrator of the Leo Kottke 6 and 12-string guitar record. There aren't a whole lot of albums out there where the Fretboard Journal would do a story on the illustrator of the album cover. That's how important Leo Kottke's record is to me and to many of you out there, that, of course, we would try to track down the woman who illustrated the armadillo on that album cover. Anyways, I had an absolute blast talking to John. It was such a joy to hear his story, or at least parts of it, and to hear about this Kottke project. There's also a Michael Hedges book that he put out. He's just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him. I'm going to drag him to our 2026 Fretboard Summit. Everyone go out there to fretboardsummit.org. Meet me in Chicago this August. We'll have a little Leo Kottke love fest with or without the man himself. And besides yours truly, we have dozens, nearly 80 luthiers exhibiting workshops, music performances going on all weekend long. It's going to be truly a magical weekend. Fretboardsummit.org is how you can register. Our podcast, as always, is brought to you by a couple of brands I truly love. First up, our friends at Pay Kid Nation. If you want to be a better guitarist, head on over there. Use the discount code Fretboard when you check out. You'll get your first month free. Fingerstyle Blues is one of their many classes there, and so many of their instructors are Fretboard Journal subjects or writers. It sort of just feels like this extension to all that we do here. We are also brought to you by Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar, which is just down the street from me here in Seattle, Washington. I've been hyping their website. I've been hyping their social media feed. I was just reminded they have this incredible Substack filled with article after article. If you are like me and burned out on Facebook or Instagram, head on over to their Substack and just dive into all those articles. There is so much information there. It's incredible. mmguitarbar.com is how you can visit them. And then, of course, they have the Substack. And then last but not least, our friends at Stringjoy Strings, the new kid on the block, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of making guitar strings, but boy, do they have a huge impact. They were just at NAMM and had a great turnout. Acoustic, electric, banjo, and mandolin strings. They can do custom sets and everything in between. If you are ordering direct from Stringjoy, tell them the Fretboard Journal sent you, and then report back to me. I want to hear what you think. I know I love what I've tried so far. Those are my big announcements. Our 58th issue is mailing to all subscribers right now. Thank you to everybody who's written to me about it, posted on social media about it, told me what your favorite stories are. As always, you can reach me at podcast@fretboardjournal.com. And now, without further delay, my interview with the one and only John Stropes. We're talking about Leo Kottke, but also so much more. John, welcome to the Fretboard Journal podcast.
Mighty good to be here.
I have heard your name. I've seen your books. I've known your work for so long, and I feel like half of our audience is like, oh, Jason finally got John Stropes on the Fretboard Journal podcast. The other half are going to go, who is John Stropes? So where did I know you're in the Midwest? You are the guy for fingerstyle guitar, but I want to hear how you grew up and when you found fingerstyle guitar before we get into all of this stuff.
Well, okay. I was born here in Racine, Wisconsin. In fact, just a few blocks from where I live now. And I was swept up in what we affectionately call a folk boom. You're probably not old enough to remember the Kingston Trio, but
I know who they are.
When that hit the fan, and Peter, Paul, and Mary, it just carried a whole generation of people along with it. And I was really interested in having fun with the guitar. I think by the time I started playing the guitar when I just got out of 6th grade. And that same year, I was teaching guitar. Because there was such a upswelling of interest in it. So it was fun. And, looking back on it, it's easy to say, well, I guess I've always been a guitar teacher, but I never really thought I would be a guitar teacher. I went to school, went to college somewhere in the Midwest, I forget exactly where, and then took a year in Taiwan, studying at Dunghai Dashua, which is a load of fun because I figured Chinese has got to be the language for me. It's a tonal language, so it's really attractive to listen to. And not every Chinese person respects the tones of the language as much as I do. So it's very you can tell what province people are from, by how they slander their tones. It's very interesting.
This was a dialect of Chinese, like you said it very quickly. Yeah,
I was studying Mandarin.
You're studying Mandarin, okay?
Yeah, in Taiwan at the university in central Taiwan, Dunghai Dashua. So that was fun. That must have been in like 68 or something. I came back. I remember actually going over, stopping in San Francisco and seeing a concert at the Fillmore. It was Cream. Can you imagine? I mean, just for no reason at all. It just happened to be happening while I was there. It was so much fun. But so I was there for a while. I came back. I wrapped up at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and got a degree in political science. And I was going to grad school, and that's in the late 60s, early 70s, grad school in political science, East Asian studies, really. And that's when Leo's records started to be known. And when I heard that, I still remember hearing, because my brother worked at a record store and he would bring home albums. But I remember hearing Greenhouse for the first time. The first cut on it is Bean Time. Do you know that?
Of course.
I couldn't believe it. I was just stunned. And I remember I looked at the album cover and I saw Leo's manager's name on the cover, and there was a phone number. I called it as soon as the song was over to try to get in touch with Leo somehow to try to understand what was going on. And at any rate, political science at the time was suffering in my mind because of the moral cloud that Nixon had brought over politics. So I thought maybe I'll go back to teaching guitar, and I was fortunate enough to get a gig with Milwaukee Public Schools, and then so I had 40 students there, and then I was hired to teach a bunch of music teachers who were trying to incorporate guitar in their curriculum. So I had, 100 music teachers. And then I got a job at a guitar store run by just a wonderful person, John Verheeg. And then I got an offer to teach at the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music. They brought me in to teach that thing that they didn't know what it was, but people kept asking for it. And I was honored to fill that position. So that was great, and always trying to move forward to bring up the level. I established a cooperative program with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, where the guitar faculty at the conservatory could function as the guitar faculty for their program, their bachelor's degree in guitar. And that was great for a while. And then finally, UWM brought the whole program in. And so I was 20 years at the conservatory and then 20 years at UWM.
You just fast forwarded through so much stuff, and I have to go back a little bit, because everybody was into the Kingston Trio, and then from the Kingston Trio to Leo Kottke seems like kind of a big leap.
Okay, I missed a couple of things. Well, one was I was so fortunate because I became aware of the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago, and we're only about 90 miles from Chicago. And this was before I had a driver's license, because I remember my dad driving me down there to see what was up. And I wound up taking 3 lessons from Ray Tate, who was just a terrific human being and a great guitar player and a wonderful teacher. And I don't know how he picked me out of the wilderness, but I think he saw I was really interested, and he taught me some songs, some fingerstyle tunes by Josh White and Pete Seeger. He taught me Living in the Country, actually, the song that you may know from Leo Kottke. It's a Pete Seeger tune, which is interesting because later on I found out that the school, the founding guitar teacher at the Old Town School back in, I think it was 58, was Frank Hamilton, who played the second guitar on Pete Seeger's first recording of Living in the Country. So he had brought it in as, the ultimate curriculum at the Old Town School. So why Ray was teaching it to me at my first lesson, I don't know, but it was really inspiring. I love that guy. And I remember I hauled a portable tape recorder, and I'm not talking small, they were like this, down there to record the lesson, which I still found the tapes, by the way. So it's nice to listen back. But Ray was an inspiration. He was a great player, and I owe him a lot because he kind of woke me up to what was possible. So I was doing that, and then I wound up going to, college like the next guy, where I was still teaching guitar on the side. I was just joking with my sons that when I grow up, I might get a real job. But, in the meantime, I'm doing what I think you do, which is you just follow your curiosity. It's a load of fun. It can be very rewarding. And I'm still at it.
That you are, and you, of course, we've already talked about this. I want to get you to our next Fretboard Summit at the Old Town School of Folk Music. Maybe you can teach us the race. We'll play the recording, digitize it, and you can teach all of us, because that was clearly the gateway drug for you to greatness. So yeah.
That'd be fun. I'd like to visit them again.
Was it, the blues, did the blues come before the Kottkes and the Peter Langs for you? With the blues artists, was it that where you kind of picked up the
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. And I think that it's the same, Leo's a year and a half older than I am. But in a way, I was just kind of tagging along with some of the same things that had influenced him. And it was more of more folk music, actually, instrumental folk music that was really interesting to me. I mean, the blues, technically, and on acoustic guitar, fingerstyle, that all fit in. But that wasn't the main impetus, and I never imagined being a blues player. I was never following, John Hammond Jr. or someone like that. But everything else was just fascinating to me. And the thing that I realized, again, going back just to hearing Leo play Bean Time, was that there was a new world out there of possibility for fingerstyle guitar. And I wanted to understand it, and I thought I could be helpful. I could help other people try to begin to understand it too.
Let's talk about that, because it's one thing to learn how to play a Leo Kottke tune at whatever ability you can play it. It's a completely different thing to be able to figure out, especially pre-technology, how to turn it into something that others can play.
Yeah.
Did someone teach you that, or were you inspired by some notation you saw from one of the instructors you met along the way? Is this just hours and hours and hours of woodshedding and trial and error? Like, how did you become that person?
That's a fair question. And I'm not really sure. I mean, my family was all musical, so that helped. In other words, I was tuning up my ears as a small child already. When I was coming up on guitar, there were a few things that were available, but I didn't even know about them. So you really had no option but to learn the best you could on your own, which was fine. And, it has a merit in a formative sense to be able to do that. The problem is, do you ever actually understand it, or are you just next to it? Are you adjacent to it when you play your own version of it, which is fine, and it can turn out great. But I was actually interested in knowing exactly what was going on. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, first by ear. The first book I did, which was 20th Century Masters of Fingerstyle Guitar, was done all from recordings, audio recordings. So, you slow it down, you try to emulate it yourself. Does it sound like what you were listening to? Is there some little noise, especially on the high end, missing some little percussive sound? Was that guy using a pick on that note? Is that a thumb pick? What am I hearing, That was an adventure. And then right around then in the late 70s and early 80s, I started using video as much as possible. And some of that was problematic too, because you might not have a good shot. But from about 82 on, I started videotaping everyone that I was presenting in Milwaukee. So this gets right to that whole archival thing, which we can talk about later. But it was great. One camera, carefully situated so that you could see kind of inside the person's right hand, but a little bit of his left, so you knew which position he was in at least. That was good. And then, we graduated to having 2 cameras and 3 cameras. I think once when Leo came in, we did have 7 cameras on him. And especially the one that's most interesting, it was like above his right shoulder, above his head, about a foot or 2. They built a special tripod so they could do it. Because, when you probably know this, when he plays, he has an interesting way of damping the string with with this part of his right-hand thumb.
Yeah, the pad there, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called, yeah.
Like, how do you even get that to damp a string? It requires a certain hand position. So that was great. So we've got an archive a mile long now, and it's a load of fun to work with, and I especially like going in and seeing something myself, like that I haven't seen since the 1980s. It's like meeting these people again. it's beautiful. I don't know how else to put it.
7 cameras, and you're talking about back in the day when cameras were cameras. They weren't just like glorified iPhones. This must have taken up a lot of real estate.
Yeah. Well, at UWM, we had a studio that was gracious enough to allow us to invade every once in a while.
How important, if at all, I mean, you were lucky enough, Michael Hedges, Leo Kottke, all these people you got to actually know. How important is it on your end to know, here's what this instrumental is really about. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's the pond that I saw when I wrote it, or the mood I was in. Like, does that matter at all? Or are you just like, I'm going to try to verbatim document what happened on this recording?
Well, as a teacher, I think that, and I just call it contextual material. It's like, it's not the song itself, but it's everything you've mentioned. Well, what's the song about? Are there lyrics? Where was it recorded? What is the composition like? Why is it structured like that? What's going on? All that stuff is crucial to deeply understanding a piece. I think of it as material that you can kind of hooks that hold your attention to the piece and give you something to think about when you're playing it, other than, oh, what a nice pile of notes this is. It's like all of the contextual detail. It matters immensely, and that's why I've taken to use that when I'm publishing a book. Some people think it's over the top, like, well, the music should be able to stand on its own, shouldn't it? Just give me the notes, shut up about the rest. But I don't see it that way as a teacher.
I have to imagine, I never got to meet Michael Hedges, but I've met Leo Kottke, I'm grateful to say. Sometimes these artists are a little cagey about what the tune is actually about, right?
Yes. And also, post-composition, it develops. It's just like you told a good story once, well, you could tell a different story next time, or make it a little better, or a little different. Yeah, and they're all kind of interesting. For example, most people don't, guitar players I know, don't name their songs before they've written it. They write a song, then they kind of get a feeling about what it might or might not be about, and then finally they develop a name. So if you think, well, that name is giving me the whole, well, it's a retrospective look on on that composition. But also, I should say, so it's been completely illuminating to know these artists, but knowing their music is really the crux of it. I mean, so much is revealed through the music, and the way I met these people is my curiosity toward the music itself.
Do all the artists immediately understand and oblige, or are some like, why on earth are you going to try to transcribe that?
Yeah, there is some of that going on too. I mean, Michael Hedges was very he was so easy to work with, and always ready to demonstrate something. I mean, he could be, taking drugs for a bad cold or something, and I would say, could you just go through layover once more? I'm trying to understand this. And he would get a guitar out and do his best. He was a stand-up guy, in addition to being kind of a I don't know what you call it, like a pixie, an elf. He had this wonderful adventurous quality about him. It was so exciting to be working with him. But sometimes I remember another time where I had a TV studio, a professional TV studio, all set up for a visiting artist who decided that they would really rather just go out for tacos.
Oh. That artist shall not be named.
No.
Wasting your time. I mean, I think of the Midwest as being, and it might be very much just because of you and Leo Kottke, I think of it being this sort of fingerstyle hub, and I'm wondering if there's something in the air or water there, or if it's just because you're there and Leo's there.
Well, it's a little more than that, because if you go right back to the folk blues revival, you'll find that there was a coffee house in Milwaukee called the Avant Garde Coffee House.
Okay.
And of course, in Minneapolis, you have the Scholar Coffee House where Leo played. Kerner Ray and Glover played at the Avant Garde in Milwaukee. They were regulars there. And then in Ann Arbor, you have the Ann Arbor Blues Festival coming up in the late 60s. So a lot of music going on there. And there were a few, coffee houses in Madison. So it was really a central hub for that circuit of players, folk people who are on the either folk music or blues. Some of the rediscovered blues guys, John Hurt, Skip James, Booker White, all those people kind of rolled through the area. So it was fertile ground. But I agree with you, especially Minneapolis. What a charming place to be living.
Is this a relatively, I mean, you just mentioned 4 or 5 venues that are all kind of legendary. Is this a largely lonely endeavor, sitting with these tunes, trying to get them on paper? Like, I can't imagine that you can have many distractions.
Well, life is filled with distractions, but also, especially I think about maybe 6 or 7 years before the pandemic, I was teaching online. So I've been doing that a lot. And of course, when the pandemic hit, everything went online for a while. And I still teach online. And I've been very fortunate to have hundreds of students. And I even have the children of some of my students coming in for fingerstyle guitar lessons now, which is a treat. But I'm in touch with quite a few of them, both from a long time ago and more recently grad students who went through the UWM program. And I meet with many of them on a regular basis. For example, in the Leo Kottke book, I brought in a group of, I don't know exactly how to put this, but these people have been following Leo Kottke from the beginning. And they each had really distinctive attributes. Like one of them has a memory that's just phenomenal. I mean, he seems like a regular person, but if you ask him, do you remember the Leo Kottke concert in 87? And he'll remember not just the concert and being there, but he'll remember what variations Leo used on Oho.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think he even knows how remarkable he is. So, and another person who knows the entire background on 12-string guitars like Bojos and Gibsons, and these people have some of Leo's guitars that were sold when Leo divested himself of whatnot a couple of years ago. So they're really experts, and I was fortunate enough to be able to use them in what we called the transcription review group. So it was so nice. It was just like the best bowling club you can imagine. We'd get together online because they're all over the country and go through every note of every song and have the debate. Well, was that the 6th string or was that the 4th string? And he just didn't hit the octave strong enough for me to hear it, that kind of discussion. It was so much fun.
I'm picturing some sort of like Ocean's 11 style ragtag crew of fingerstyle. One guy's good with the gear, the other's really got the memory, the other one can crack a safe, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a great time, and it was the same. It's the same thing now. You know, I'm working on the second book for Michael Hedges, fingerstyle guitar solos of Michael Hedges. Well, some songs, and yeah, it's a group from well, one person in China, one in Taiwan, and a couple from the U.S. who are reviewing the material. These are all people with great ears and a lot of desire to get this right. So, yeah, if your question is, am I having any fun? The answer is yes.
You're clearly having fun. I think you're also probably in this unique position where, because you are the hub of, you are ground zero for if you want to learn some of this stuff, you probably have a sense of trends of, you know, oh, I'm getting more calls for Leo than Alex DeGrassi this year. Or like, do you kind of get requests for things where you're like, oh, this is what the youth of today is interested in fingerstyle wise?
I guess so. Like someone I was just saying that we're going to try to include Michael Hedges' cover of Tomorrow Never Knows, the Beatles tune. Because it fits so well with a tune that he wrote called Gospel. You know, and on the recording, he merged them. He wrote some new material. Gospel was old. Tomorrow Never Knows he had tried to play a long time, but he never figured out how to merge them into one coherent piece. And then he was so excited, and this was just about 1996 or so, that he had composed new material that stitched these tunes together after 10 years of having written them. And the response was, did I realize that that's going to be pretty hard to play, especially the outro on that, the wild outro. But a challenge is, so I do hear from people, and but a challenge is always interesting. I love it when people tell me that something can't be done.
Yeah, your tab is like, there's red lines, there's stuff that is not normally seen in tab.
I'm taking that as a compliment.
No, it's incredible. You know, going on at least, I mean, I hope I'm not offending anybody. I think it's a little easier to play than Michael Hedges. The essential Leo Kottke 6 and 12 string guitar album that everybody should have heard by now, the Armadillo album cover. I mean, that is a record that, myself included, multiple generations, everyone's gone gaga for that record. You did a 2-book set that everyone can order now. Like, obviously, you've been working on this for decades. You talked about meeting Leo and reaching out to his manager way back when. But, like, how did this book come to be? You did a piece on you not only did the tab, you did a piece on every song and, like, what it was about. Like, you went so deep. I'm in awe of this project, and it's so beautifully designed. I want to hear how long it took you and all the things.
Well, I would like to say it took several weeks. But of course, it was almost closer to a lifetime because I started transcribing this stuff. I remember the first song I wrote out was Fisherman. We've talked.
That's the song for me. Yeah.
And I remember I sent it to Leo to, ask him permission to do some transcription work. And the response was no. But that wasn't the answer I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So I kept at it. And then after a while, the answer was yes. He had seen some more work that I'd done, and he thought it was exactly what he had in mind. So, so we worked together. But the odd thing was that by the time we published Leo Kottke 8 songs in, I think it was 85 or 86, he had this thing, and you may... I quoted it in the book. I'll read part of it. He says, he's describing a slow curve or a wave under a piece, an impulse to change that still affects all this. And he felt very strongly back in the 80s that things change and it's good and that they shouldn't have to remain the same. So when we selected the pieces for that book, he wanted his current performance versions. So I set aside the work I had done and paid attention to how he was playing them at that time. And then subsequently, over the years, I taught this summer workshop on the music of Leo Kanke. Nicest people came in, again, from around the country and around the world, just to take a close look at Leo's tunes. And we would do 3 or 4 songs every year when they came in. We did it for, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 years. I can't remember. So it was a nice proving ground for the work. But it was around 2015, I think, that it finally occurred to me that that 6 and 12 string guitar, the Armadillo recording, really deserved to be captured just as it was, because of its. It was such an important cultural document. It deserved to be captured like that. Now, Leo was playing at the time with 2 finger picks and a thumb pick. So you're correct. The technique was not as tactile, convoluted, sensitive in so many different ways with such nuance as he gets now. It was more like you either plucked that note or you didn't pluck that note. So in a way, it's easier to comprehend and to get into. But going back and having to write these songs out as he no longer played them was a challenge and a very interesting one. And I think I referred to it as a retrograde diatonic analysis, because we could take a look at a song, and go take it back through the decades and then try to imagine how Leo was playing it when he was using 2 finger picks and a thumb pick. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And how involved, is someone like Leo in this project? Are they kind of like, oh, go do your thing, John? Or are they wanting to see your developments and criticize or critique what you're doing?
Let's see. How can I say this? Leo is very involved.
Okay.
But it's not as if he looks at the music. But he's very articulate. He knows exactly what he wants, and I can ask him about the opening of the bridge, and he'll know exactly what measure I'm talking about, and he can say, yeah, I remember I used to play that strumming down when I was using picks because I couldn't really do a raschiato with my fingers yet, or something like that. So he was very closely involved. And of course, we talk all the time. In fact, I just got off the phone with him before we got online.
Amazing.
He's doing well.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that. Are there, when we look at your website and all the notation and all the books and everything, are there some artists who just resonate with you more? Is there a reason there's not a Robbie Basho tablature book or John Fahey? Do you really have like favorites, or is this just this never-ending project and eventually you'll get around to everybody?
Well, I've been very fortunate to get to know Michael Hedges. I worked with him for 12 years before he passed away. And Leo, of course, I've worked with him almost forever. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting things. So right now what I'm doing, I've turned my attention to the next Michael Hedges book, which we hope to get out in the middle of the year. And then I really want to pull in, because when I teach, it's not like I only teach Michael Hedges and Leo Kanke tunes. I teach the full gamut of what's going on in fingerstyle guitar. And I think that approach is really sound. for example, if you're working with someone, maybe, I don't know if this is a good example. If you're working with someone on two hands on the fingerboard, it's really nice to start with tunes by Billy McLaughlin because they're so beautiful. And he really was in many ways, he was the main impulse behind Two Hands on the Fingerboard, which now almost everyone does. Not everyone, but quite a few people do that now. So I hope to put together a method that will bring in all these other players and the really significant contributions and individualistic contributions they made to fingerstyle guitar.
Yeah. It's incredible. And I don't want to diminish your work, but who's designing these books? Because they're so beautiful.
Thanks for asking. We started working with Clay Feller, who's got his own design company here in Milwaukee. In the late 80s, he did the poster for the American Fingerstyle Guitar Festival in '89. And then as we continued having design projects come up, well, he was always there to help us out. And he's involved, he's very interested and interesting. And he got to, he would go on when we were shooting photos for the Michael Hedges book, he was there trying to rein in the photographer who was really interested in having a good time.
Oh.
I mean, I don't even remember part of it. Clay tells me he was showing Michael how great it is to eat raw garlic. And didn't I notice that? Didn't I notice the smell? But I don't remember any of that. So he's been involved. He got to know Michael as a result of that photo session, and he's gotten to know Leo a little bit. But what I like about his work is that he'll take copy that I've written, and he will decide what the pullout quote should be.
Yeah.
He reads it, he thinks about it, and then he determines what needs to be emphasized. You probably run into this all the time in your magazine.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're working with a designer closely, there is that fun synchronicity where they notice things you wouldn't have noticed, or they're picking up on some inflection. So yeah, I mean, these books are, for anyone listening to this, these books are works of art. I mean, beyond the work you've put into them to make the music.
And I feel the same way about Fretboard Journal, just so you know.
Thank you.
But I would sometimes wonder when you're making something that you hope will survive as an object, that people will put it on they'll put it on their desk or on their coffee table and just they'll be happy about it.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks beautiful. I think I love that. But today, and then people will call in saying, is that available digitally? And it's a different experience, having the physical object that you can hold in your hand. And with music, of course, it's a little more complicated because do you really want to be using a foot pedal to advance pages on your oversized iPad, or maybe you could get by with just a music stand and some music on it?
Yeah, I don't know. These books, I can't imagine reading them digitally. They'd probably still be beautiful. They would be, but the experience of everything with them is just so cool.
We divided it up into 2 volumes because in one volume, I think they would have tipped most music stands.
That was the logic.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that. That's amazing. And you've got, and then you're not a print purist. You've got QR codes. People can dig deeper. I mean, you went way down the Leo Kottke rabbit hole.
Well, thank you. And yes, have you looked at the QR codes?
I have not looked at the QR codes yet, but I admired them. I'm still staring at the tab.
Oh, yeah, they're so cute, aren't they? But what happened is that I had written about 25,000 words, and it was a little too digressive. And so I thought, I can simplify this, trim it down so there's a through line that you can read in the book, and that makes sense, and then use QR codes for the stuff that you might be interested enough in to possibly click on that QR code and read. So that was the original thinking. Now, I know you're wondering, are QR codes going to exist 5 years from now? Is this a safe decision or not? I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, there'll be a good time capsule of when this book came out.
So the other half of the material is in the QR codes. And some of them are pretty extensive. And I've tried to put in some surprises, let me just say. Not just the audio files that the transcriptions are based on, but some video files that have really not been seen before.
Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm going to have to start QR coding.
Well, I'm just trying to tantalize you on this, but
are you ever surprised when you were able to talk to Michael Hedges, or when you and Leo Kottke are on the phone? Are you ever surprised by what they want you to include about these compositions that maybe you didn't even think about, or is it always pretty straightforward?
I don't remember. I may be just not recalling, but I don't remember them ever really pointing to something that we weren't already talking about. And usually I'm the one that's digging a little bit deeper than might be comfortable.
Yeah. What are you using for a guitar or guitars? Because you're covering a handful of artists who all played kind of different instruments. At least they all played acoustic instruments, but different styles and models and stuff. What do you use?
Well, let me ask you first. How many guitars do you have? Tell me the truth.
20. Let's say 20.
Okay. I used to have more, but I think I'm probably down to about a dozen. But I've always had, given my background, I was taken with Martin guitars when I was a kid. My dad got me a 1957 D18 used. And every time I pick that up, I still feel like I'm in high school because the mahogany, you know what I mean? It just sounds so different. So that's fun. But later on, I just happened to come across a D28 from 53. And that was before the rosewood hit the ceiling. But it's a beautiful instrument. And I know Michael even wanted to trade me for that guitar because it was from the year he was born, and he was kind of sentimental and he liked the sound. And of course, the more he wanted it, the more I did not want to trade him for it.
Classic.
Yeah, it's sad. It's pathetic, really. But so I've got those two dreadnoughts, and then over here I've got, I published 2 transcriptions of Michael's tunes for harp guitar because it's there, and the Double Planet. And over there, I happen to have the top-of-the-line Dyer harp guitar. It's the Model 8. It's the one with all the inlay that won't quit, and the little astronomical scene on the peg heads. For
the secrets of the universe are all on that fingerboard of that guitar. Yeah.
So I'm planning to publish his transcription of the Prelude to the First Cello Suite. I mean, everyone loves that song. And if you have a harp guitar, you may as well be playing it on your harp guitar.
I'm scared to ask, how does one transcribe for harp guitar? What else is going on there?
Well, I'm using the word loosely. I would say because I said, Michael took the original music for cello. It's in G, and he played every note from the cello part on his harp guitar. So it's a transcription for a new instrument, but In every other way, it's exactly like it was originally written. It's not like an arrangement. It's not like Segovia is playing it or something.
I was just trying to figure out how tab works for harp guitar because you got all those extra strings and stuff.
Well, I'll send you a copy of the Double Planet when we get off the line here.
It'll all make sense.
Well, it's very intriguing. And, with Michael Hedges, he used right-hand string stopping, which is still kind of mysterious for people.
Yeah.
So you've got the 6 strings of the guitar and 5 harp strings, sub basses we call them, and then you got pink lines showing where your fingers are supposed to be sitting on the strings, and you got 2 hands on the fingerboard, and it's just it's
easy.
It's a puzzle. I love the Double Planet because it sounds lovely, but it's so intricate. It's just kind of beautiful. So you do it very slowly. I mean, right now we have a new type of notation that we're planning on releasing as an adjunct for the Hedges book coming up. I hope it works out. I call it grid tab. And it's a little, if you imagine doing one transcription pass, you're hearing notes and you write down all the notes and the fret numbers and stuff. And then you go through it one more time and you actually stare at the right hand so you know what finger is used to play every note and also when that finger stops the string. So you got all that information. Then you go through maybe another pass. Maybe you do it all at the same time, but think of it as another pass with the left hand. So you show what finger is being deployed and how long it holds down. And then if you think of this, a 4th pass, which is the way you've done all that work, and still you need to go through and determine exactly how long each note is ringing, which can be a challenge. So this grid tab kind of gets down to one more level of specificity, which I don't mind at all. I figure a little information isn't going to hurt a person. And the goal, in my mind, is like, can you hope to stand on the shoulders of Michael Hedges? It's not, can you hope to play his tune and pretend that you're Michael Hedges?
Sure.
So that's what I'm aiming for, deep understanding of the tunes so that a person can still, be themselves and move on and history can unfold and we'll be proud of our decade.
Mm-hmm. When we started talking, you were referencing doing a video shoot, 7 or 8 cameras. That clearly was probably cutting edge technology, way ahead of its time that anyone would think to do that many multiple camera angles on a guitarist. Are you still using cutting edge technology at all with your notation and the tab stuff with all the software that's out there? Or is this pretty much still an old school endeavor where your designer gets maybe stuff that's drawn by you and they make it beautiful? Or are you using any of this stuff?
Probably not in the way you imagine it. I do all the transcriptions with a pencil and paper, actually. Mm-hmm. But then they're typeset. And I don't know if you're familiar with the state of music typesetting these days.
I'm not familiar, but please.
Well, principally, people would be using a program called Sibelius or Finale.
Yeah.
And Finale discontinued last year, I think the beginning of last year. They said they would no longer issue the program, they'd no longer support it. And it was horrifying to hear that because it was the most adaptable in many ways. There was what it could do and then what you could trick it into doing to make the music more complex. The notation, show more detail. And we've often had this, do you know the name Petrucci? Mm-hmm. He was the guy a long time ago who was a printer who printed some of the first music notation using movable type. And he had a system of doing it. He'd run the paper through the press, and it would just print the staff lines. And he might run it through again, and it would print just the words to whatever he was publishing. And he would run it through again, and it would have the blobs that were the notes. So he called it a triple impression system. And the key back then was, could he possibly register a piece of paper in the press well enough that they would all be in the right place? And he did that. He was a very particular guy. And we wound up using that a kind of a double impression system. We would do everything we could in Finale, and then we'd export it to InDesign and add graphical elements as necessary. But now that Finale is buzzed, it's hard. I mean, we're keeping a set of computers on an older operating system just so it can continue to run on Finale.
This sounds dangerous, and it's like it won't last for more than a decade.
I'm figuring we got 6 more months on this before the whole thing goes.
It's like a Y2K situation.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't use. No, we use high resolution video.
Yeah.
And of course, audio, and you can slow that quite a bit, especially if once you've up-resed the video, you can work with that at a slower speed pretty reasonably. So that's technology. We use that, but we don't use any auto transcribing program. That it just doesn't. It still has not produced results that I can look upon favorably.
And is the only way to get these books ordering directly through your website?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is not John Stropes, just stropes.com.
Yeah. Now, if you have another idea, I hope you'll let me know.
Well, I mean, you don't want the middleman. You want to make all the money. So I think you've got the right idea.
Well, what I want to do, and again, I think it's just like what you want to do, is you want to do the very best job you can and then put it out in the universe and hope that it speaks for itself.
I think you've done that. I think you could go buy yourself an ice cream cone and relax a little bit, because these books are works of art. They're amazing.
Well, thanks. I'm going to do that. Ice cream.
Yeah. John, I am going to drag you to the Fretboard Summit.
I'd be delighted.
I want everyone to go grab these books. I mean, the 6 and 12 string guitar, the Leo Kottke, the 2-book set. I mean, that is just, for so many of us, a holy grail album. And the care that you put into this, even if someone doesn't feel comfortable attempting these songs, I mean, it's just so many insights into the recording itself. It's just a beautiful thing.
Thanks. And I hope we can get together at the summit this coming summer. Yeah. And maybe Leo can come down too.
Let's drag Leo. Leo. Let's put him on the spot, make him talk at length about these songs, make him really uncomfortable. What were you feeling, Leo? Sure, he'd love that.
You've seen him play recently?
I saw him play in Seattle. I guess it was fall of 2025, and I did put him on the spot and make him ask to play The Fisherman, because when I saw him 30 years ago and asked him to play The Fisherman, it was when he was refusing to play The Fisherman. So there was there was a moment there where he was tired of that song, and now he's okay with it.
But you probably know, if you've heard him recently, that he's got some great new pieces.
Yes, he does.
I'm really stunned. Yeah. I mean, I always think there's no moss growing on the north side of his legs. That guy's moving all the time.
We didn't even get into that. Have you, as a musician, are you writing fingerstyle pieces that we should be hearing and know about? Are you still working on those, or are you focusing mostly on others?
You know, my mission, I think, from the very beginning has been to try to understand what I think is most significant in fingerstyle guitar, and then to help people to share that with other people. So, no, I haven't. And you know, I played some fairly large concerts in the People's Republic of China when I was working over there, but I really haven't performed much since then. And I try to point my attention to this transcription work, and especially now the archival work that is a product of just having been at it for so long.
Yeah.
We're trying to position the archives so that it can, you know, like the question is, where will this be in 50 years? Is it going to be at the Smithsonian? Where will it actually reside so that it can have this continuity into the future? So that's what we're working on mostly. But it's fun.
I imagine it is.
You should come to visit.
I will. I'll come I'll come before or after the summit.
Yeah, great.
Okay. John, thank you. I feel like this is the beginning of many conversations we'll have with you, but I did get the Kottke book and get so excited that I'm like, we got to get you on the podcast right away. So thank you for all that.
Yeah, thanks very much.
All right, that was my chat with John Stropes. Again, you can get the book. I've included a link in the show notes. Hopefully, John will be coming to our Fretboard Summit. And thanks, as always, for tuning in to the Fretboard Journal podcast.